Hey, Get Fox here. So, Zan from Forward Progress Madden, aka Mudhead, did an interview with Carlos Guerrero, the new senior producer, aka creative director of Madden. So, this guy, in his vision, this is probably the most important thing that we've seen come out the last week. This interview about, we have the Madden 19 details, the Mud 19 details that are coming, all that. That's all good, but this man's vision, not just going forward in 19, because he's been there for 9 months. I think a little bit of 19 is his game, but mostly like 20, 21 going forward. This is the guy that's going to kind of lead the direction for the franchise. So that's Zan on the left and him on the right. So I want to do a breakdown of this interview, kind of my thoughts on it, break down what he said, kind of what I can kind of tell, where he's thinking, what he's thinking of, and so on. I don't want to take this intro too long, but I think this was... So Sean Grady was Rex's boss. We all know Rex Dixon, the former creative director, and I think Carlos took Sean's spot because Sean went to NBA Live. Rex was replaced, I think, I'm not 100%, but by Michael Young. But basically, Carlos here is taking Rex's role as creative director. So competitive Madden is the only thing not under him. That's still under a separate wing. He's got franchise gameplay and MUT, basically. So what I learned, and Carlos has a very good track record coming from Blizzard, basically being a part of some of the top games of the last 15 years with World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and so on. Go take a look. Just go ahead, Google him, look at his LinkedIn profile. Basically, with the Zan interview, Carlos mentioned gameplay first before all the other modes and stuff. They really got to lock down gameplay. And that's something that Rex really stressed too, making the gameplay good. Carlos says that they look at telemetry data as much as player feedback, talk about the many different audiences. And when he says audiences, he referenced competitive and how Rex really focused on the competitive and making Madden more of a competitive game. Because, that's kind of like the way of EA. The core customers is what Rex wanted to focus in on. So when Carlos says more about the different audiences, it's not so much just the core game. So it looks like Carlos, it feels like he's going to want to open the game up to more a broader audience, take it a little bit more casual than Rex really took it the last couple of years. Rex was kind of just honing into his vision. 18 was on the path to really make it quote unquote for the core gamers. So it'll be interesting if we reverse back and go back more towards the Madden 16, where downfield passing, aggressive catching, that kind of stuff happen, or make it more easy to beginners. He talked about a little bit later in the interview about teaching people the game of football and how John Madden said you can still teach people the game. You know how us in the 21st centuries, we hate learning. So it'll be interesting is how many people actually care about learning the concepts that don't also want to be very good Madden players, and how really they can make them care about learning. But then the counterpoint to that, for Madden, oftentimes, even if you know football concepts, it doesn't really matter. This is a video game. You got to learn how to basically glitch out the video game and move the ball. So having it more football concept, and that's kind of a good thing, that teach people football concepts, but the game also has to react to a football concept way, like a clear out route, with the cornerback running flat backwards with their head away from the quarterback. They shouldn't be able to break on the ball right when it's thrown. So he also mentioned, he talks about patches. They want to let things settle a bit first, is what he said with patches. Something similar that Rex said a little bit. But I think, what we saw with Overwatch and stuff, they're fine patching their game. And I like that they're thinking about patches and stuff. And I wonder if this is... We learned that Madden is coming to PC, and I wonder if that's going to change any of the patch cycle at all, because PC tends to get more patches. We saw the Fortnite model getting patched basically weekly. So they say they want to be strategic, but we'll see what happens. I'm a fan of patches, and a lot of other people don't like them. But if you remember Madden pre that first patch, you literally couldn't stop guys on defense. It was impossible to stop certain routes. So it was a good thing they ended up patching that a little bit. So we'll see how they do with patches going forward. He also mentioned communication. Did I talk about the telemetry data? Rex mentioned that a little bit. They use that too. So it'll be kind of cool seeing maybe if a certain play is gaining too many yards per attempt, say if a pass play is gaining 15 yards per attempt at high level competitive stuff, or the top end players end up being able to run this run play for 8 yards a carry, they got to tune that. So hopefully they do really pay attention to telemetry data and what's being used, and they end up balancing the game based on that, and also basically buffing some plays too, not just nerfing plays, but making some other plays actually useful. So with the communication and the community team, he did mention that's not necessarily people being out there on Twitter. So that's it. We've seen a lot of developers for EA be out there on Twitter, then we harass them back into hiding. Some of them, rightfully so, the Thanksgiving Leaf fella. I won't mention his name, but there was him who had that big controversy around him, and he basically brought it on himself. We've also harassed Jake into hiding. He doesn't tweet as much as he used to. Clint doesn't tweet as much as he used to. Billy, I know Pixel Pusher's gone. He used to tweet more. But basically, with EA, it doesn't seem like they want to be out there on Twitter as much. We'll still have the communication guys, the Guru, Kralo and stuff. But he kind of wants to focus on dev diaries about what they're working on. So basically, have these developers create things and talk about what they're creating, kind of let us know that way, let us know ahead of time what they're working on, which is basically what I want, to tell us. Like he talks about people, the issue is like we don't know how long it's going to take to fix these certain things. So if they communicate like we're trying to work on this right now, and tries to get a time frame, I think that'll help the community a ton. So communication will be an interesting thing going forward. I think you'll see less communication on Twitter, basically what he talked about, but more like dev diaries and stuff about the team. Like we used to get those dev diaries, not dev diaries, but we used to get more blogs and stuff in 15. So that'd be kind of cool to see that back. He mentioned something about jobs and evaluating the people they currently have and their jobs, so that'll be interesting to see what they come up with that. And talking about he wants to add in more people from the community that understands footballs and understand game. So that'd be because Blizzard, he mentioned, did something like that. They didn't have game changers so much like Zan. They didn't have people from the community. As Zan laughs, that was a good joke. Gut Fox, nice work. But so they'll have a lot, probably do something similar to like he did at Blizzard there, have some more like core people that have been, like we've had a lot of people from the community hired. Like we saw T-Raw get hired. A lot of people have come from the Game Changer program, ended up being taken on by EA. Kralo is from Mudhead. So we'll see what he does. Like, so they're going to try and bring in more community people. That'd be cool. I'm sure that'll help the game because those people have passion for it, and EA is good at exploiting people's passion for the game and working them overtime. All right. So he talked about, again, his 5-year plan. I don't know if I mentioned that. Rex also had a 5-year plan. Rex's 5-year plan is kind of out the window. Carlos's 5-year plan, he said, isn't out yet, but they're working with the team to develop it. So he doesn't really have his vision for what he wants forward of Madden yet, so we're kind of just, kind of catching his catch can at the moment. It seems like he's catching on. 9 months in, you really don't get... In my experience, you don't really get a hold of the job to like 2 years in almost, a lot of jobs. I mean, some jobs... Some are kind of simple. You get in within a day. But there are other jobs, like more complex jobs. I'm sure like his job, 2 years seems about right. So him being 9 months in, he's still kind of relatively new. You're still getting to know people. It depends on how good you are with names. But there are still people in my job. I've been there for a while and no clue who they are. No freaking idea. And really, it's for the best. I have enough people that I say hi to. All right. So... He did. He specifically mentioned, like I talked about earlier, that the game needs to be balanced between competitive and the 67 million others that play the game. So the Rex going strictly for competitive and the core gamers, as he called them, that's kind of going by the wayside. He likes that the other casual players, the players that don't know as much. I think we're going to get a lot of complaints going forward, and really I don't like this because it just gives people the ability to say this game is not for competitive players, and they can blame their faults and their terrible mistakes on other people and EA, and generally, if you lose at this game, at least I've seen, it's something that you did. Like, you'll get screwed out of some games, but if you look at the overall records, if your record is 500, you're not a very good player. Anyways, moving on, he talked about balancing between realistic and fun gameplay, which is a very tough thing to do for a game based on a sport. Balancing between, I mean, it's like this year, it's I don't know if it's fun. I don't know if a heavy pass rush is fun, but it's more realistic. So it's going to be interesting to see how he balances pass rush with pass defense and what makes more fun. Do you want more explosive plays? Do you want higher scoring games? Or do you want defensive lockdown? What's more fun for people? And that's the thing. Everybody enjoys things differently. Some people like running. Some people like passing. You guys should know by now, I like passing more than I like running. I think it's a higher skill, basically a higher skill set to pass than to run the ball, because all you have to do with run the ball is go in the direction and look for an open hole. It's what it is. And look for mismatches in the run and then audible to a toss one way or the other. It doesn't seem that running doesn't seem that great or fun to me. Like, football's all about passing nowadays, so kind of make it realistic, make it about passing, in my opinion. He talks about the fluid movement around 1330, so that's basically what they're kind of advertising this year. You have more control over your players. I'll see it when I play it, if that's true. At 18 minutes in, Zan talks about solo players being casual. Now, this is something that I've seen this repeated a bunch of the community, that I completely disagree with solo players being only casual. Like, I know some solo players that put in more time than competitive guys. And calling them casual Madden players is a disservice to how much they actually put into this game, and it kind of, I would say, lessens like their I don't know what's the word, reputation, because they absolutely grind the heck out of this game, and we really shouldn't forget about that. So even just because you're not playing head to head doesn't mean you're a casual gamer. Carlos himself said he's a solo grinder. He doesn't want to miss that experience. He wants to see what people are going through. So it's good that he says he's playing the game. I don't know with a man with his busy schedule if he can play it as much going forward, but I guess if he plays it a few hours a night, that's all we can ask for. At 1940, he says franchise is never enough. About franchise, so there was a lot of improvements for franchise this year. Rex said he dedicated himself to improving some franchise stuff. The way Carlos made it sound like franchise was kind of, he almost made it sound like franchise guys ask for too much. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing now, misremembering, but I do remember him saying it's never enough for the franchise guys. So we'll see what that means going forward. Whether franchise, like, you're going to get 19, but after that, you're out of luck. We're going back to MUT focus. I'm kind of nervous of that. Franchise is a very important part of Madden. You see soccer games, Football Manager sell over 1 million copy just being franchise, no gameplay. So I think you're basically cutting off your nose to spite your face if you forget about franchise, because there's a huge crowd out there that is so into franchise, and do not ignore them. All right, next you talk about like 22:30 about the new player experience and the story mode and stuff like that, and it's good that he's thinking about the new player experience. It's something that I've talked about in MUT, like online gameplay. Those first 5 games, they match you up to find your ELO score, and you absolutely get crushed. You go against like guys in all Madden in your first 5 games, and you feel like this game sucks. We're playing against God squads. So I hope they do redo the whole new player experience and onboarding and stuff. And then like a minute later, he talks about the onboarding and people recognizing coverages, like I talked about earlier. All right, so. He did mention also one other thing. I think it was around that time standard, a little bit before that. He talked about being in exclusive games with under 20s and women. So apparently Madden doesn't have a lot of players that are under 20 or women. And basically my thoughts on that, I want them to expand Madden. Like, so I have a YouTube channel, 25,000 subscribers. I have 98 point something% of them are men that watch this channel. And 3.9% of those are under 18. So 3.9% of my channel is under 18. So Madden is not a game for kids. As much as we like to call on the kids to say we should get microtransactions, Madden is an old man sport, old audience generally. I mean, there's some kids that play it that are good on the sticks and stuff, but it's interesting that he wants to try to expand a little bit to under 18, because Madden is always thought of as like a kid's game almost, but no, it's a mature man's game. So we'll see what he does to make it more appealing to under 18s and women, and hopefully, expanding audiences is always good. We'll just see if we hope he doesn't like compromise this game by making it too Fortnite-y, and for like, we don't want them to make it like a kid's game. Like, this isn't My Little Pony here. We don't want 9 and 8-year-olds coming in and spending MUT dollars. So I don't know. It looks like Carlos passes forward is, try and grow the game with like making like a larger audience, like I said, versus Rex's path, which was to try and appease the core demographic, and then they'll tell their friends. It's kind of like a word of mouth. So it really appease those core people. But Carlos kind of wants to, widen the umbrella, whereas Rex wanted to stick the umbrella in your gut and then have you tell people how awesome it is. I don't know. That made sense in my mind. So it'll be interesting how it plays out going forward. I believe 18, in my opinion, was the best gameplay in years. I liked it so much better than 17. 16 and 15, those guys had nanos and other degenerative stuff like that. And, so there was like PA end around 15. So it kind of got bad at that. But so I think hopefully the gameplay with Clint in charge going forward is good. They don't make too many terrible decisions. But that's basically my thoughts on the interview. Kind of went long. The interview itself is only 30 minutes. I talked for half that. So thanks for watching. Call to action. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Check it. I'll put Zan's interview there too. I'll link to it. So thanks for watching. Call to action. I'll see you tomorrow.